You ever have a moment that splits your life into before and after? Mine came on a Tuesday night, with a knock on my office door and my teenage son holding his phone like it was a live grenade. What he showed me didn't just end an engagement, it exposed a truth I never saw coming. Because the woman I was ready to marry wasn't just still on Tinder. She was bragging about using me. And the worst part? She was smiling in the photo like it was all a game. I was 46 when I met Vanessa. Divorced for 5 years, raising my son Jack mostly on my own, and trying to keep my career from swallowing the rest of my life. Vanessa came into it like spring after a long winter, charming, funny, gorgeous in that classic red lipstick and eyeliner kind of way. The kind of woman who walks into a room like she knows all the exits and all the secrets. We met at a charity event for my firm. She was a friend of a friend, some kind of art consultant who helped rich people spend their money tastefully, as she put it. We talked for hours. She made me laugh. Made me feel seen. That was rare. I hadn't planned on falling in love again. But that's how it happens, right? Not with fireworks. With warmth. We dated for a year and a half before I proposed. Nothing extravagant, just a quiet dinner at my apartment in Manhattan. The one I'd saved for years to buy. My crown jewel. 2 bedrooms, pre-war charm, Central Park views if you leaned out far enough. A place I imagined growing old in. She cried when I asked her. Said yes. Said I made her believe in forever again. Jack was cautious. He was 17, smart as hell, too observant for his own good. He never said he disliked Vanessa, but he never warmed up to her either. Said she was polished but slippery. I thought it was teenage protectiveness. Loyalty to his mom, maybe. Kids have a hard time watching their parents move on. I told him to give it time. That Vanessa cared about both of us. He didn't argue. Just nodded like he was saving his energy for something bigger. I didn't know how right he was. A week after the engagement, Jack came into my home office. Late. I was finishing up a presentation for a client meeting. He knocked once, then stepped in with that look on his face, the one I'd only seen twice before, when he got suspended for a prank sophomore year, and when our dog died. Can I show you something? I figured it was a video, a meme, maybe some school gossip. He handed me his phone. Tinder was open. And there she was. Vanessa. Same smile, same photo she'd used on our wedding website draft. I stared at it, not understanding. Then I saw the bio. Engaged, but it's complicated, he's got a killer apartment in Manhattan. Keeping my options open kiss mark. I blinked. Read it again. And again. My heart didn't drop, it froze. Jack stood there quietly. I wasn't looking for her, Dad. I swear. It just came up. I didn't know what to do. I set the phone down. I wanted to believe it was a joke. A fake profile. Some idiot using her picture. But the bio, that was her voice. The emoji. The tone. Too specific. Too real. I felt everything inside me start to tilt. Thanks for telling me, I said, my voice paper thin. He just nodded. I'm sorry. I sat there long after he left, staring at her picture glowing on the screen. This woman who'd made me breakfast that morning. Who kissed me goodbye and told me to pick up red wine for dinner. Who said she was looking at venues this week. And now I had to wonder if the only venue she cared about was my address. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay on the couch, our couch, staring at the ceiling, Jack's phone still glowing on the coffee table like it was daring me to check again. I didn't need to. I'd seen enough. Vanessa came home a little after 11. Said she'd been with friends, planning a surprise engagement party for us. That word, us, landed like a slap. She walked in humming, heels clicking across the hardwood. She smiled when she saw me. Then froze. "Why are you still up?" I sat up slowly, held out her phone. "Tinder," I said. She blinked. Just once. Didn't ask which profile. Didn't ask what I was talking about. She knew. That silence told me everything. But still, I needed to hear it. Not because I didn't believe it, but because some betrayals require confession to feel real. "Why?" I asked. She sighed, like I'd just asked her to explain quantum physics after a long day. "You weren't supposed to see that." That was her opening line. No denial. No panic. Just a calm, measured admission, like I'd found an old receipt and she was explaining a charge. "I'm sorry, okay," she added, like that fixed anything. It was a joke. A stupid profile I made months ago, before we got engaged. I forgot it was even active. I stared at her. Dead silent. She sat across from me, slipped off her heels like she was settling in for a casual conversation. Like we were still us. "You made a profile," I said slowly, "that says you're engaged to me only for my apartment." She shrugged. It was exaggerated. I shook my head. It was specific. She rolled her eyes then. Like I was being dramatic. "Come on, James. You live in one of the most desirable zip codes in the country. That's not nothing. You know how hard it is to find stability in this city." My stomach turned. "You didn't fall in love with me," I said. "You fell in love with square footage." She didn't deny that either. Instead, she gave me this look, this sad, almost pitying smile, and said, "You're a good man." And yes, part of why I said yes is because you provide stability. You're solid. You're safe. That matters to me. Safe, I repeated. Like a safe investment. She winced. But not for me. For herself. "This city eats people alive," she said, standing now, pacing. "You think I didn't love you? I did. I do. But it's not like I found some random millionaire and gold dug my way into a penthouse. I've been with guys who had money. You're kind. You care. That's rare." It was supposed to sound like a compliment. It didn't. It sounded like a cover letter. "And Tinder?" I asked. "That part of the plan too?" She rubbed her forehead. "I didn't use it," she said. "I never went out with anyone. I guess I liked the attention." That was the realest thing she said all night. I liked the attention. I'd seen it, of course. The way she worked a room. How she needed to be seen, noticed, adored, even when we were together. I used to think it was just her personality. Confidence. But now I realized it was hunger. And I wasn't enough to fill it. She tried to spin it. Said it was harmless. Said I was overreacting. Asked if I was really going to throw away everything over a profile. But here's the thing, it wasn't just a profile. It was the truth. Written in her own words. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't demand she leave. I didn't call her names. I just stood up, walked past her, and said, "I can't marry someone who sees me as a stepping stone." She followed me down the hallway, voice rising. "So what now? You're just going to blow it all up because of one mistake?" "No," I said, without turning around. "Because of 12 months of pretending and one sentence that told me everything you really think." And I closed the door behind me. Vanessa didn't leave that night. She stayed. Slept in the guest room with the door shut and her pride wrapped around her like armor. I didn't sleep at all, just laid there with my thoughts spinning like a busted ceiling fan. I kept hearing that line. I'm engaged to him only because of an apartment in Manhattan. If she had just said she was scared. Or lost. Or not ready. Hell, if she'd told me she was falling out of love, I could have respected the honesty. But what she gave me wasn't fear. It was entitlement. The next morning, she made herself coffee. Mine too, like nothing had happened. I didn't drink it. She sat across from me at the kitchen table and asked if we could press pause and figure things out. I told her there was no pause button when trust gets shattered like that. She didn't argue. Not really. But she didn't apologize again either. Not sincerely. Just told me she hoped we could be adults about this. Funny thing to say to the man you just admitted using. By the end of the week, she was gone. She moved out on a Thursday, took most of her things, designer dresses, makeup, some artwork she'd insisted we curate together, for the apartment. Left behind a few trinkets and a bottle of wine she'd once said was too special to open. I tossed it in the trash. Jack watched it all happen quietly. Said very little. Just helped carry boxes down to the curb, then came back up and made us grilled cheese like it was any other Thursday. Halfway through his sandwich, he looked at me and said, "She was never here for you, Dad. Just the view." That one hurt. Not because it was mean, but because he'd seen it before I did. Then came the ripple effect. Friends started reaching out, some confused, some concerned. Apparently, Vanessa had been doing damage control. Quietly. Strategically. Word got around that I had overreacted. That I flipped out over an old dating profile. That I couldn't handle a confident woman who wasn't afraid to keep her options open. That one nearly made me laugh. But the real gut punch? A mutual friend, Jenna, someone who had always seemed solid, supportive, texted me. "Just heard what happened. I'm shocked. Vanessa said you were insecure, even before the engagement." I didn't want to believe it, but maybe you two just weren't aligned. I didn't respond. What could I say? That I'd bent over backward to support a woman who saw my life as a real estate opportunity? That I trusted her enough to blend her into my family, into my home, only to be turned into a footnote in her Tinder bio? It was clear now, Vanessa wasn't just walking away. She was rewriting the story. And in her version, I wasn't the steady, supportive man who believed in second chances. I was the gullible chump who couldn't take a joke. The one person who didn't buy her version. Jack. One night, we were on the balcony. Cool air. The city humming below. He leaned against the railing and said, "You know, she's just doing what people like her always do." I asked what he meant. "Some people can't handle being the bad guy," he said. "So they make someone else worse. Easier than facing a mirror." He was 17. 17, and already wiser than I'd been in that relationship. A few weeks later, I saw her again. Briefly. On the street. I was walking out of a coffee shop near my office. She was on the other side, in heels, laughing at something some guy said. I don't know who he was. Didn't care. She saw me. Smiled, this little tight, closed-lip smirk, and waved. Like we were still part of the same world. I didn't wave back. Because I wasn't. Not anymore. There's a moment in every breakup where the anger starts to fade, and the sadness sets in. But if you've ever been used, really used, you know that sadness has layers. One of them is shame. Another is clarity. And then there's the layer where you stop mourning the person, and start mourning the version of yourself that let them in. That's where I was. It had been about a month since Vanessa left. Since the last box slid out of the elevator. Since I stood in my living room surrounded by echoes, wondering how I could be so careful with my heart and still hand it to the wrong person. But things were starting to settle. I went back to my routine. Early mornings. Coffee. Work. Dinner with Jack. Reruns of Seinfeld when the world felt too heavy. We even started laughing again. Real laughs. The kind that don't feel borrowed. Jack seemed lighter too. Until I got the message. It was from Leah, a friend of Jack's mom, my ex-wife. We hadn't spoken much since the divorce. Just the occasional co-parenting update through neutral channels. But this message? It was direct. Hey, I wanted to give you a heads up. I ran into Vanessa at an art showing last weekend. She was talking. I didn't respond right away. Just waited. Then the next message came. She said Jack had always made her uncomfortable. That he never accepted her, and she felt threatened in your home. That he was too protective, almost controlling. Just thought you should know. I stared at my phone like it had spit venom. Vanessa wasn't just dragging me now. She was dragging my son. The boy who handed me her Tinder profile like it was radioactive. The boy who helped her carry her boxes when she left. The boy who quietly made me grilled cheese the night I almost shattered into pieces. And she was painting him as dangerous. That set something off in me I hadn't felt in a long time. I called Jack into the living room. Told him what she said. Word for word. He didn't look surprised. Just a little tired. She said stuff like that when you weren't around, he admitted. Little things. Like I was too quiet. Or that I was always watching her. Why didn't you tell me? Because I figured you'd find out when it mattered. And he was right. Because now it mattered. Later that week, I saw Vanessa's little narrative playing out on social media. Photos from art shows, tags in wine bars, cheeky captions like, "New chapter, who this?" She'd unfollowed me, but people sent things. They always do. And under one post, some blurry rooftop shot with a cocktail in her hand, was a comment from a mutual acquaintance. "You're glowing. So happy you got out of that situation." That situation. That's what I had become now. Not a man. Not a fiancé. Just a situation. A stepping stone with square footage. But you know what? That was the moment I stopped feeling ashamed. Because when someone has to lie that big, about your child, no less, that's not your burden. That's a sign they're still trying to outrun their own reflection. And me? I'd stopped running. I took Jack out to dinner that Friday. Just the two of us. Steakhouse. Real napkins. Big sodas. He raised his glass and said, "To square footage." We laughed so hard the couple next to us stared. He was okay. I was okay. We were okay. And that was enough. It came in a cream-colored envelope with my name written in looping script, Vanessa's handwriting. I knew it the second I pulled it from the mailbox. The kind of handwriting you find on thank you cards and breakup notes. Pretty. Performed. Practiced. I stood in the hallway outside my apartment for a moment, just staring at it. Thought about tossing it. Thought about burning it. But curiosity is a stubborn thing. Inside was a letter. 2 pages. Single-spaced. "No, dear James. No, I'm sorry." Just a story she needed to tell, one that tried to twist our history into something palatable. She called it a misunderstanding. Said the Tinder profile was bold, never serious, an outlet. Said she never meant for Jack to see it. As if that was the crime. Then she said something that nearly made me laugh. "I was scared to lose you, so I tried to keep doors open, just in case." Just in case. As if love was a job application and I was the placeholder until something shinier came along. She said I'd made her feel safe, seen, and held, but that she struggled with the idea of stability. When you're used to turbulence, stillness can feel like a trap. That line stuck with me. Because it wasn't untrue. But it also wasn't my fault. I wasn't her trauma. I wasn't the one who left her with baggage. I was the one who offered her a soft place to land. And she turned that offer into a Tinder bio with a winking emoji. At the end of the letter, she wrote, "If you ever want to talk, I'm here. I still believe we had something rare." I folded the letter. Set it on the counter. Didn't tear it up. Didn't text her. Didn't call. Just let it sit there like a museum piece, proof of what once was, and how far I'd come from it. Because here's the thing no one tells you about healing. It's not about getting answers. It's about no longer needing them. That night, I went through old photos. Not to torture myself, but to finally say goodbye. Pictures of us at the lake. At a gala. Her with Jack, pretending for the camera. I moved them all to a folder titled Closed. And that's what it was. Closed. Not broken. Not ruined. Just, over. Jack came home late from study group. Asked how my night was. I told him about the letter. Told him I didn't read it right away. Told him I did anyway. Told him it didn't change a thing. He nodded and tossed his backpack down. "People like that don't write letters for closure," he said. "They write them to stay on your mind." Smart kid. Smarter than me, maybe. The next morning, I tossed the letter in the trash. No drama. No fire. Just slipped it under the coffee grounds and banana peels. And with it, I buried the last piece of her narrative. Because her version of the story, it wasn't mine anymore. Time doesn't announce its healing. There's no loud click, no swelling music, no ribbon to cut. It just happens. Quietly. Like pain going dull. Like a door swinging open you didn't realize you'd closed. 3 months passed. The apartment felt different, not emptier, just clearer. I rearranged the living room. Swapped out a few pieces of art Vanessa had hung with such meticulous flair. I replaced them with black and white photos of places I loved, Lake George, a crumbling barn in Vermont, a little bookstore from my college days. It wasn't about design. It was about reclaiming space. One day, I caught myself humming while making breakfast. That was the moment I knew I was free. Jack got into his first choice college. We celebrated with pizza and too much soda. I told him how proud I was. He told me I was better off without Vanessa. No offense, he added, grinning. None taken, I said. You were right before I was. He shrugged. You had your reasons. We all want to believe in something. That stuck with me. We all want to believe in something. And I'd believed in Vanessa. Believed in the way she looked at me when no one else was watching. Believed in the life we were building, right down to the guest towels and cheese boards. But sometimes what you're building isn't a home, it's a stage. And all it takes is one spotlight to realize someone else was reading a different script the whole time. Spring came early. I started walking more. Letting the city move around me instead of rushing through it. On one of those walks, I found a little bookstore tucked between two boutiques I'd passed 100 times. Went in on a whim. Bought a novel. Spoke to the woman behind the counter. Her name was Maya. We talked about Hemingway and coffee. It didn't feel like a spark. It felt like peace. We didn't make plans. Just shared a moment. That was enough. Because this time, I wasn't trying to find the one. I wasn't chasing the feeling of being needed, or wanted, or admired. I was just being. And for the first time in years, that was enough. One evening, I stood on the balcony, Jack gone for the weekend, the city flickering around me. Same view. Same sky. But a new man looking out at it. The apartment Vanessa once bragged about on Tinder. It was still here. But it wasn't leverage anymore. It was mine. Not because I paid for it. But because I stayed. I endured. I healed inside it. And no one gets to write their way into that story again, not without honesty, not without grace.